Welcome to the second part of our chapter 7. So in this video, we're going to develop the aggregate demand relation. So the aggregate demand relation captures the effect of price level on output. So in chapter 5, we derived the goods market equilibrium equation. And we said equilibrium in the goods market requires that output be equal to the demand for goods, where the demand for goods is basically the sum of consumption, investment, and government spending. So this gave us the equilibrium in the goods market. And C plus I plus G gave us the demand for goods. We also derived the equilibrium in the financial market. So equilibrium in the financial market requires that the supply for money be equal to the demand for money. So that relationship was given by this equation, where M money over price gave us the real money stock. Okay, so using these two relations, we basically can develop an aggregate demand relation. So the aggregate demand relation is given by this equation, which basically tells us that output Y is an increasing function of real money stock, which is M over P, and an increasing function of government spending and a decreasing function of tax. So we're going to look at this in more detail. So in chapter 5 and 6, we focus on real money stock, which is M over P, that came from changes in nominal money M alone by the central bank. But changes in real money stock can also come from changes in price P. What does this tell us? It tells us that a 10% increase in price has the same effect on real money stock as a 10% decrease in nominal money. So using the IS and LM relation, we can derive a relation between the price level and the level of output implied by the equilibrium in the goods and financial market. So given that both financial market and the goods market are in equilibrium, let's look at what happens if the price level increases. If you may remember, the IS curve is drawn for a given value of government spending and tax. It is downward sloping, which suggests that an increase in interest rate leads to a decrease in output. The LM curve is drawn for a given value of real money stock. It is upward sloping, which tells us that an increase in output increases the demand for money, and interest rate increases so as to maintain the equality of money demand and the unchanged money supply. So in the case where there is an increase in price level from P to P with an apostrophe. So given the money stock or nominal money stock, the increase in price level decreases the real money stock. So the LM curve will have to shift up as indicated in this curve. So at a given output, a decrease in real money stock leads to an increase in the interest rate. So the economy will move along the IS curve from A to A with an apostrophe. So interest rate will also increase from here to there. And output will fall because of the negative relationship between interest rate and output and investment rather. Increase in the price level leads to a decrease in output. So this relationship can be shown by the aggregate demand relation. So what does this tell us? It tells us that the increase in price level leads to a decrease in real money stock. This monetary contraction leads to an increase in the interest rate, which leads in turn to a lower demand for goods and lower output. So the negative relationship between output and the price level is drawn as the demand function, which is a downward sloping curve. This curve right here. So point A and A with an apostrophe in the aggregate demand curve corresponds with that of the LM and IS relation here. Any variable other than the price level that shifts either the IS or the LM curve here also shifts the aggregate demand relation. So let's look at this. For example, an increase in government spending. So at a given level of price, or at a given price level, the level of output implied by the equilibrium in the goods market and financial market is higher, given that there's an increase in government spending. The aggregate demand curve will shift upwards or outwards from AD to AD with an apostrophe. So also a decrease in M or nominal money at a given level of output, the level of rather at a given level of prices, the level of output implied by the equilibrium in the goods market and the financial market is low, and therefore the aggregate demand relation shifts to the left. So in essence, under the aggregate demand curve, we've captured a presentation of the IAD relation, which is given by output is an increasing function of real money stock, as well as an increasing function of government spending and a decreasing function of tax. So given monetary and fiscal policy, that is given the M, government spending and tax, an increase in price level leads to a decrease in real money stock, which leads to a decrease in, which will be equals to a decrease in output, and that is captured in the aggregate demand curve. So basically, aggregate demand curve gives us the impact of change in price on output, which the negative sloping curve shows that there's a negative relationship between price and output. When price increases, output is going to decrease. So what have we learned about the shifts in the aggregate demand and aggregate supply curves? So in the aggregate supply curve, with the markup, unemployment benefits or any variables in the catch-all Z factor, or we can also say it's the labor shocks, can impact the shift in the aggregate supply curve. So money supply changes, government spending and tax change in those factors can shift the aggregate demand curve. So just to summarize, starting from the equilibrium in the goods and the financial market, we've derived the aggregate demand relation, which is basically given by this relation here. So the relation implies that the level of output is a decreasing function of price level. It is represented by the downward sloping curve called the aggregate demand curve. So changes in the monetary and fiscal policy, or more generally in any variable other than the price level that shifts the IS or the LM curve, will also shift the aggregate demand curve. Okay, so we've come to the end of our part 2 of chapter 7. Thank you.